To understand New York City's massive carbon footprint, just look from high above.
In a city like New York, 70% of our carbon emissions come from buildings.
About 1 million buildings that need a lot of energy to cool, heat, light, operate. It's a big problem, but also a big opportunity.
If we're going to make an impact on climate change in New York City, we have to go through retrofits. We have to look at existing buildings. For the very fact that 90% of the buildings we'll have in 2050 are the buildings we have today.
Seizing the opportunity, one of the city's oldest and most iconic buildings, the Empire State. The building's ambitious retrofit just hit a major milestone, reducing its carbon emissions by more than 50%. By 2030, the goal is to be carbon neutral.
When we decided back in 2006 to start the Empire State rebuilding, we said, let's differentiate it on the basis of making it one of the most environmentally sustainable buildings in the world.
On the outside, this 90-year-old skyscraper may look as it did in the 1930s when it was built. But inside,
so you're in the chiller plant of the Empire State Building.
You'll find leading-edge green technology. Take these chiller plants, wired to run on the latest software, to efficiently cool almost 300,000 square meters of space.
So we actually took out all the guts, recycled all the metal, and built new guts to the chillers on site.
Windows are another major energy drain for buildings. The Empire State has more than 6,500 of them. To prevent heat loss, insulating film was added on each one.
We reused 96% of the original glass and frames. We did it in a window factory we built on the 5th floor. Nothing left the building.
Another key retrofit, the elevators, 68 of them, including the ones that take tourists right to the observatory on the 102nd floor.
We just completed the largest elevator modernization in the world.
The elevator's braking system generates energy that powers other parts of the building, parts that are also already energy efficient, from the floors to the walls to the lights.
Every single piece of this building, we've done something to make it perform better.
A city full of energy-draining buildings is not just a New York problem. According to a UN report, in 2020, buildings around the world accounted for 37% of energy-related CO2 emissions. In Canada, Trudeau wants a net zero emission building code by the end of 2024.
How does Canada
Thomas Mueller with the Canada Green Building Council estimates that about 100,000 large buildings need retrofitting to help the country shrink its carbon footprint.
The average Canadian probably doesn't know that buildings have that a massive contribution to carbon emissions in this country. They think they're focusing on industry and they're focusing on cars. But the fact is we need action in all three areas.
There are hopes the Empire State Project will inspire that action elsewhere.
Everything we learn here is given away because it's not enough if we only succeed in the Empire State Building. We want to use the most famous office building in the world to teach other people that this is possible.
As it did once before when it was the world's tallest building. Only the message this time isn't to build high, but to build green. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.